The night Kevin Burke broke up with his girlfriend, he went for a walk, a long walk. It was a long walk because he didn't exactly break up with her. She broke up with him. You know how that goes. She told him she cared about him, but she wanted to see other guys. So Kevin put on his jacket and started out on a long, long walk to nowhere. He was sick at heart, morose, and feeling sorry for himself. You know how that goes, too, most likely. He felt anger, too, at what he considered her inexplicable betrayal, and confusion, and frustration, because these feelings were unbidden and unfamiliar to him, and he did not understand. At some point in his long walk to nowhere, he found himself walking up a section of Main Street where most of the bars and popular college hangout spots were located, and he was thinking he should change direction and get out of there, lest he see her with someone, which would only increase his depression. And then he was also thinking, what if he did see her with someone? Who would it be? And he was suddenly torn between wanting to run away and wanting to find her, between fear and an almost morbid curiosity, and the misery was tearing him apart when he came upon a man sitting in a chair in the middle of the sidewalk. The man was outside the door of a place called Sidewinders. Kevin knew it as a bar that featured bands on the weekends. This was a Friday night, and he could hear the music and people throbbing inside the bar, sounds of warmth, companionship, and happiness, that mindless, carefree happiness, none of the desolate things he was feeling. Outside on the sidewalk, there was no one but himself, the man in the chair, and a car driving slowly up the street. It was chilly out. Kevin had his collar turned up against the wind, had been thinking that all this long walk would get him was a cold. As he approached the man, Kevin recognized that he was sitting in a wheelchair. The man was handicapped, or what did they call it now, physically challenged. "May I help you?" Kevin said when he came to the man. The man appeared to be middle-aged, quite a bit older than Kevin. "Thanks a lot," the man said cheerfully. "I could use a hand." There were 2 steps up to the door. The door swung inward. Kevin opened the door, got behind the wheelchair, lifted on the handles, and helped the man, pulling him into the bar. Once inside, he was about to leave when the man put out his hand and said, "Thanks a lot. My name's Mike. Let me pay the cover for you." There was a young man standing by a table with a cash box on it. He was holding a stamp in his hand. A sign by the box indicated a $2 cover charge. Mike reached into his pocket, took out his wallet, and handed the young man a $5 bill. "For both of us," he said. Kevin had no intention of staying. He wanted to leave immediately, but he also had nowhere to go, and he didn't want to hurt the man's feelings, so he nodded his head and said, "Thanks." The young man at the table stamped their hands. Mike began rolling his chair through the crowd toward the back of the bar, where the tiny stage was located. It took a while because there were so many people in the bar, almost all of them college kids. A space in front of the stage was cleared for dancing, and there were a few tables along the wall to the left. One of them was empty. Mike rolled up to it, and Kevin lifted one of the chairs and set it to the side by the wall. Mike pulled into the spot and said, "Thanks. What say we split a pitcher? I didn't catch your name." "It's Kevin," Kevin said, and the 2 men shook hands again. Mike ordered a pitcher of beer, and when it came, he poured it into their glasses. The band wasn't playing then, and most of the crowd was around the bar, so the 2 of them began to talk. Kevin told Mike that he was a college student, majoring in psychology, but he wasn't sure why. He didn't know for sure that what he wanted to do when he got out of school, but he was only a sophomore. He had time to find out. He didn't tell Mike about breaking up with his girl. He felt like talking about it with someone, but Mike was a stranger, and Kevin wasn't about to spill his guts to somebody he just met, this guy in a wheelchair. Kevin asked Mike what he did. He didn't want to talk about himself anymore. Mike laughed and said, "I watch TV, a lot of TV." Mike told Kevin when he was a teenager, just after he graduated from high school, he came down with a disease that had paralyzed him since. "I'm sorry," Kevin said. "Yeah, well, I used to ask myself, why me? Because the doctors said there was no accounting for it. But there's no answer to that, so I just had to learn to live with it, Mike said. Mike said what he had was a virus called Landry's ascending paralysis. You mean it started at your feet and worked up, Kevin said? Mike nodded. First sign of it was when I started falling down a lot, tripping over things, then just falling down for no reason. Like when I'd be playing basketball. I thought I was turning into some kind of spaz, you know? Then I lost all sensation in my legs. Right now I'm paralyzed from the chest down. Is it? Kevin said, and he stopped. It's okay, Mike said. You mean will it keep going up? I don't know. One time about 5 years ago it did. I started having a hard time talking. My face felt numb, and the doctors thought maybe that was it for me. I even had a priest say the last rites. But then it went away. I don't know why. How is it your heart can beat if you're paralyzed, Kevin said. That kind of muscle this thing affects is voluntary. The heart's an involuntary muscle. That means it keeps beating no matter what, I guess. Lucky for me. So what I do is mostly watch TV. You might say I'm a student of the tube. Kevin laughed. I watch the game shows, the soaps, the judges, and all the talk shows. Oprah, Phil, Sally, Geraldo. It's incredible, the number of them. All these people come on with their problems. They're minorities, they feel persecuted or misunderstood, or they're victims of something. It's just this endless parade of humanity, day after day, and they all want to talk about their problems. It must be therapeutic, I guess. You know, years ago, you wouldn't remember it, you're too young, there was a show on called Queen for a Day. It was a game show, see, but what happened was women came on and they would tell their sob stories, and the one who told the saddest story became the queen for the day. The audience would clap at the end, and there was like this clap-o-meter that would register the applause. So it was like a contest to see who could be the most pathetic. Jesus, they'd cry and talk about their problems. It was a real popular show, and the point I'm trying to make is that these talk shows today seem to me to be almost exactly the same thing, except they don't give out prizes. You think they should give out prizes? Kevin said, laughing. Sure, said Mike. Competition and reward, that's the American way, isn't it? I guess so, said Kevin. One thing I've learned from all of this, it's that everybody's got problems, Mike said. For a while, when I was still a kid, I thought I was the sorriest guy in the world. I couldn't believe this had happened to me, all the things I was missing, but I got over it. Hell, in some ways, I got an advantage over everybody else. I get a lot of sympathy. Like, you stopped to help me. We never would have met if I wasn't like this.